Today's guest is a former Major League pitcher who prepped at Lloyd Memorial High School and collegiately at Northern Kentucky University. Hello and welcome everyone to the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame show. I'm Charlie Coleman and as always joined by the President of the Hall of Fame, Mr. Joe Brennan.
We'd like to welcome you today and introduce you to Chris Hook. Chris was inducted into our Hall of Fame in November of 2011. And Chris, would you like to go in and tell the audience about growing up in Northern Kentucky, what some of your experiences were?
Well, I mean, growing up in Northern Kentucky back when I was a young player and a young kid, went to Arnett Elementary, Tister Middle School, and Lloyd High School. Baseball in that part of the city in Erlanger, there were some great players. I mean, the Greg Kunkles of the world, Pumphrey. Lloyd High School was a powerhouse. From my point of view, and then Dixie Knothole was a big part of that. Everybody was involved in Dixie Knothole. I was a part of that too. But growing up, the Mark Seamers of the world, like I said, the Kunkles, that Erlanger, the Edgewood, that kind of area, and when I was growing up, was really a hotbed for pitching and baseball. And it was an exciting time for baseball back then.
For Chris Hook, who were some of those early coaches that you had that sparked that interest in you in baseball?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of coaches in Dixie Knothole. I mean, Coach Michaels, I remember Coach Arthur back in the Hempstead Sound Center. I'm not sure if you guys remember that store that we had here in Northern Kentucky, but that was one of the early teams I played on, and they were really instrumental. I mean, I think about what I was as a player. I wasn't a very good player. I mean, athletically, I wasn't a standout, but for some reason they thought that I had a decent arm, and they were going to try to use me as a pitcher, and they did so, and it worked out okay. I think that I threw the ball hard early on, didn't pitch a whole lot, did more throwing, and there were times I look at some of the box scores back when we clipped them out. I don't know where they are now, but there'd be 10 strikeouts, 15 strikeouts, and 10 walks. We're just talking about pitch counts. I don't think we had pitch counts back then, but those guys were the ones that saw that there was a potential for me to pitch. I don't think if they made that decision that I would have played baseball very long, because I just remember being out in the outfield and left field, kicking rocks around. Like, I really don't hit very well. I'm not athletic enough here in the outfield. I think I better be doing something else, and they're luckily enough they made me a pitcher.
Sounds like you're a DH guy then.
I was DH.
You like the DH role.
Let me tell you, even at the high school level, I mean, I got DH for JT DH for me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like people say, you play professional baseball, and I say, you're a professional athlete. I said, no, I'm really not an athlete, but I'm a professional pitcher.
Baseball player.
And I'm a pitcher. Yeah. And the athlete is kind of way down on the block there.
Yeah. You were originally born out in California, and then you came here to Lloyd, then you went to Northern Kentucky. Tell us a little bit of experiences in Northern Kentucky. Bill Akers, you had a good relationship with him?
Yeah, the California thing is always funny, because now since I'm all over the country doing, playing all over the country, and then of course, playing some time in San Francisco and being with guys all over the country, they see that on a baseball card in San Diego, and they think I'm from that. I've got a little bit of that attitude at times, a little goofiness, and that West Coast attitude at times. But no, my dad was in the Navy out there, and then my family's from this area, so I didn't live in California or spent a lot of time there, except the times I played baseball there. Yeah, and it kind of moved on through Lloyd High School and went to NKU, and Bill Aker over at NKU was really a driving force for me as far as learning how to win. I mean, there was something about him, he wanted to win. And there was something that I think is, he could teach me a slider or a split or a changeup. That could have made a difference, but the biggest difference in me, and I think that was like I said, I was more of a pitcher, not crazy talented. I got to the big leagues, all that, but I think my drive to win and my winning percentage when I was coming up through the minor leagues was a big portion of why I got to the big leagues. Bob Quinn, who was the GM of the Giants, when I got traded over, the main reason he wanted me because I had an 800 winning percentage when I left the Reds organization to the Giants.
Go back to high school. I think any show we have talking about Lloyd Memorial High School and baseball, JT Mulligan.
Yeah. JT, I tell you what, this guy was the hardest working guy I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this guy was, teaching during the day. Before that, delivering newspaper. He's probably up at 3:30 in the morning, delivering newspapers. Come to school and teach. Afterwards, be a coach, and then be an athletic director. It was unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable work ethic. Was a driving force for teams. I mean, put teams together. Obviously, he had a lot of good ball clubs. The one that went down the sectional with Mark Seamer, Noel Rash, part of that club as well. Those were all teams that he built, and kind of. I think that as we went through that, one of the principals out in Boone County. Todd Novak was another guy right behind me, a very quality pitcher that JT helped develop. And he was kind of the same way. I mean, he wasn't a hard driver like Aches was, but with his work ethic and the way things were organized and stuff, he really kind of taught us how to play the game right.
When you were at Erlanger Lloyd, when you graduated from there, did you get a scholarship to NKU? Did you walk on?
That was a kind of a funny thing. I think it's hard for me to remember that whole scenario there. I know I had some interest from some other clubs, other colleges. For me at the time was baseball. I mean, I really wanted to play baseball, and obviously school was part of that. But I went over and talked to Aker, and he's like, "Hey, we'd like to have you." I mean, he was really the first guy to say, "Yeah, we want you." And Matt Bomer and I from Beechwood were the only two guys from the area to sign that year. But there were other people out there, but Aches was the one. Hey, why don't you come on over here? We'll take care of it.
It's nice to be wanted.
Yeah, I think it was.
He wanted you.
Yeah, it was local. It was easy for me. I hadn't really been out a lot. I played for Midland Redskins and got to travel a little bit. But I was really a homeboy, and I hadn't been out much, so for me it was a good fit.
We only got about a minute before our first break, but Skoll Brothers, you want to tell that
Skoll
story?
Brother. Well, Coach Kornbrock over there at Lloyd High School, I was really bought into that. But I was going over to on a bus trip over to Boone County for a ball game, and the guys convinced me to partake in tobacco. So I put on in a big chaw and tobacco, and I got over there, and all the I believe the Lloyd High School lunch was distributed throughout Boone County at the baseball field that day. So after that, he said, "Hey, Skoll Brother, would you like I got another dip for you if you'd like one." So after that, I was called Skoll Brother by Coach Kornbrock.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our first break, and then we'll be right back with Chris Hook, so stay tuned.
Hey Cam, thanks a lot for coming to my school today.
Don't forget 60 minutes of play a day, right?
And I'll grow up to be big and strong like you.
Absolutely.
And play in the NFL.
Yes, sir.
And become the starting quarterback of the Panthers.
Okay.
And become your mom's favorite player.
Whoa.
I'm just messing with you. Or am I?
And welcome back, Northern Kentucky, as we continue with former Major League pitcher Chris Hook. And Joe, I think you got some interesting questions for Chris.
Yeah, Chris, you must have improved enough at Northern Kentucky under Bill Akers that you were offered a contract with the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing. I think that, being at Northern Kentucky at the time, that I don't believe there was a lot of scouts out looking at me, per se. I was a tall guy. I was 6'4" at that time, probably about 215. I was tall and lanky, and I threw the ball okay. I mean, I wasn't, nowadays, guys are getting drafted, are mid-90s guys. I was probably a low 90s guy, and didn't really have a whole lot of command. I mean, it wasn't that I had all this other secondary stuff, but being over there with Aches, we were really competitive my junior year. I think probably the best record Northern ever had, and I think 48 and something. But it was a really good year. We got into the regional conference playoffs, ended up losing there in a championship game to go to the World Series, which is always disappointing when I talk to my old mates. But yeah, I got an opportunity to go over to Riverfront Stadium and try out, and it was an arduous process. I went over to the Riverfront, very excited, first time ever. I'm not sure if you guys have ever been over on that turf, but it's extremely hot. It was a hot day, and I threw the heck out of the ball that day. I don't know what got into me, but I threw really, really well, and they caught their interest. Well, in the draft process, they really don't. You have to be picked. I mean, they kind of have an idea who's going to be picked. I wasn't on that list, so I ended up signing as a non-drafted player for no dollars for a plane ticket to Plant City, Florida. So, yes, NKY was very instrumental. Charlie Lefton also helped in that process in getting me that tryout, and worked out.
Talk about Bill Aker. We talked about J.T. Mulligan, and you had some great coaches that prepared you for the major leagues. Talk about Coach Bill Aker.
Oh gosh, like I said before, I mean, he was a fiery competitor. With pitching.
Smoke in the dugout?
Oh God, he smoked a lot. He smoked quite a bit. And then when he'd come out and let me know that I wasn't pitching up to par, that vice grip of a grip he had on my back of my shoulder. I mean, he would pinch that back in the net and let me know that you need to be pitching a little bit better. Your time is running out. I mean, it would just be a squeeze. But Aches, all of us. I mean, he was a better friend after we were done playing. Then we really respected him. But afterwards, it was when you really connected with him. And I got a chance to coach with him his last season. So that was a really cool moment to be with him. And he was a tough nut, buddy. He was tough.
Holmes guy, wasn't he, Joe? He was at Holmes.
Yeah. Really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, he was on our board of directors, and he was involved in sports all the way until he died. He was still involved when he passed away.
Yeah, I didn't want to screw up. Let me tell you.
Was there any similarities between Coach Mulligan and Coach Aker?
Well, like I said, I think Coach Mulligan was fiery in his own way, but I mean,
a little more low key, I guess.
He was a low key guy.
Yeah.
He was a low key guy. Eggs, on the other, there were some things being fired around. There was a lot of laps to be run. I mean, we used to have this little course around NKU that things didn't go well. You're on. I mean, there's a lot of that going on, and it
got
just
your attention.
He got your attention, and I think that at that age, it's really important to have that type of guy there. And at the high school, obviously you're building programs and you need a lot of people to play. But at NKU and where we were, and as competitive we were, he was a good guy to have at the helm.
Yeah. In 1995, you finally made it to the majors with the San Francisco Giants. You were 5-1 that year. Could you tell us a little bit of how that felt, experiences, who some of your teammates were?
Well, I mean, the teammates are well-recognized guys that I got an opportunity. They're all coaching at the big league level now. Robbie Thompson was with Seattle. Matt Williams is now the new coach with the Nationals. Barry Bonds, Deion Sanders, Mark Carrion, Kurt Manwaring. A lot of these guys that got a great opportunity to play with. And Mark Portugal, I think he spent some time here. Mark Leiter, pitching Terry Mulholland.
Who was the rotation?
Mark Leiter was in the rotation. Mulholland was in the rotation. Trevor Wilson was in and out of the rotation.
He's a former Red.
Yeah. So we have a few guys that kind of we're intertwined. Of course, Dusty Baker was the manager that year. But Barry and Matt were the show. They did a really good. They were 30. I think each of them hit 30 home runs that year. And Barry was very, very talented. I think he stole 30 bases.
30 guy.
Yeah, for sure that year. What a great experience. For me, the 5-1 was really cool. Dusty, and this area knows Dusty and how he works. He works a lot from the gut. Anytime we had an extra inning game, I was in there. Yeah. I got a lot of wins from being in the extra inning games. And that's where he feels he has a feel for the game, where this guy, I trust him in this situation. I know he's going to win out. And that's how I got a lot of my wins as a reliever, long reliever, mid reliever out of the bullpen for Dusty Baker.
Talk about the righty versus lefty. Were you a situational guy in that respect?
No.
What kind of success do you have against the lefties?
Lefties, I was okay. I had the split finger. I think that was the one deciding factor for me. The split forkball was something I've been pitching with since I'd been 10. that Jack Morris and those types of Jack McDowell were all kind of my guys that I kind of emulated. The split kind of equalized the left-handers. I had a moving fastball. I didn't throw extremely hard. I was 88 to 92, but my ball cut. My ball had some sink to it. I had the split, and I also had a slider that I could go to. So the lefty-righty didn't bother me so much, but I wasn't situational just for right-handers as well. So I was a starter all going through the minor leagues, most of it. And you learn how to pitch to both sides of the plate, both hitters on both sides of the plate. And that wasn't my gig. My gig was just trying to get outs. Now they've become a little bit more specialized since I played.
What's your opinion of that?
Well, I think
you're a pitching coach.
I'm a pitching coach now. I'm looking at those numbers, and you know, you have to be very careful with what you're doing. You just can't assume that this lefty doesn't hit lefties well. A lot of times you got lefties that hit left-handers better than they hit right-handers, so you got to be careful for it. But there are numbers that show that, you know, this guy does not do very well. I'm going to match up the best I can with it. It depends on what I have available and you know, on down the lineup and what part of the game. It has a lot to do with it. But there are numbers that show, hey, this guy didn't hit lefties well. Well, we're gonna give it a try. We're gonna bring our best lefty to get this guy out in this particular part of the game.
We just got maybe 30 seconds. Pitch counts.
Pitch counts, I mean, I think they're necessary. You know, being in the Milwaukee Brewers organization, we have a little bit of an idea what we want to do with our guys and keep them safe and healthy throughout their career. The big deal is to get them to the big leagues and let them be successful. So pitch counts are a necessity. I think at times we don't want them to strangle the development of players, but we got to be cautious of it.
Nobody hardly finishes a game anymore. So are you developing closers at the AA level?
Not really. No. I mean, we're going to develop multi-inning guys. They're going to be guys that once they get to the big leagues, they may feel that they're closers, but we're going to make sure that that guy's going to be going at least 2 innings, can handle up and down, up and down, where he can go out there and compete instead of just having 3-out guys. 3-out guys at AA level is not going to do any good. Eventually, they got to get to the big leagues and get multiple guys out.
We're going to take another break, but stay tuned. We'll be back with a very, very interesting show with Chris Hook.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning, 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash, 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
And welcome back as we continue the Hall of Fame show. And Chris, Joe and I both got a ton of things we could ask you for an hour and a half probably, but we're time constraints, so I'll kick it to Joe, but I got a bunch to ask you too.
Yeah, Chris, after your Major League Baseball pitching experience, you're into coaching now as a pitching coach. Could you tell us a little bit how that came about?
Well, we talked about Aches, and he was the first guy to let me on. After I retired, I was kind of in between. I had a couple different irons in the fire. But coaching was something I thought was always in my blood. So Aches let me come on for that 1 year, and then I was over there with Todd Aslan, who's over there currently for 2 years at Northern. Then I went on to the Freedom for 5. which gave me a little bit more taste of the professional ranks. And then I really felt that my next step was to try to get into an organization. And this will be my 7th year with the Brewers. And you know, it's been exciting to see develop with some young pitchers that I've had now pitching in big leagues. You know, Willie Peralta, Jimmy Nelson. There's 3 or 4 other guys that I've been able to be associated with that I'm really proud of. But that was the big part of what I wanted to do, is be a part of something and then be able to see it at the big league level. I can't do it anymore. Yeah. And I can't pitch anymore. So if I can be a part of it, give them something along the way that'll get them to the big leagues, that's part of it.
Chris, I got to ask you, it's been documented here, you signed with the Reds, but you came up with the Giants.
Right.
So there was a trade there.
Yeah, I got traded, it was April 1st, oddly enough, for Adam Heisd, a Cincinnati product, Moeller.
Yeah, two local guys.
Yeah,
there.
2 local guys. He was picked in the Rule 5 draft, and Reds
Cleveland.
really.
He was with Cleveland originally,
I can't remember.
wasn't he?
I think he's with the Giants. He was with the Giants.
Okay.
They picked him up on a Rule 5 draft, and they wanted to keep him. And the big thing is that he had to clear waivers, and I had known 3 days prior to all that. I had to keep it quiet. And there was people were leaking, hey, I heard you're getting traded. I don't know, because there's a tampering rule in Major League Baseball that you're not really supposed to talk about it. And it ended up going, there was me and another gentleman that went over to the Giants, and it really gave me a jump start to get to the big leagues, because I was behind a lot of guys, Larry Lubers, John Roper, Kevin Jarvis, all these guys that had a little bit of leg up on me here with the Reds. I was able to bypass that and get to the big leagues with the Giants.
So a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely.
That happens a lot of times in the big league.
Yeah, that's what I tell my guys all the time. You don't know who's watching, the opportunities. When you're out there, you're pitching for yourself. Obviously, you're pitching for the Brewers organization, but you're pitching for yourself. Because you never know what scout.
Who's in that stand?
Yeah, you don't know what pro scouts out there looking at you, looking for a trade opportunity. You just don't know, and that happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, and then I'll let Joe. Aroldis Chapman. You got an opinion on that? We go back and forth here locally. Should he start? Should he relieve? Should he be the closer? Now Brian Price is the manager.
Right.
You're a professional. What's your opinion?
From my outside viewpoint, and I look at him, obviously he has a plus fastball that can miss bats. That's a big key. He's got a breaking ball that obviously is a good pitch because it's thrown so hard. It's a slider. I haven't seen a lot of it, but I can't comment on it. But you're going to need 3 pitches as a starter to get guys out through 6, 7, 8 innings. To me, it's
change
more
up.
that
Needs to be in his repertoire.
I would like for him to, for me,
it could be an awesome pitch.
It could
to complement that fastball.
Yeah, obviously he's missing a lot of bats, but I mean, he's probably going to lose his average fastball a little bit over the course of the season. But in my opinion, I think just personality-wise, just a little bit I've watched of him. That closer's role fits him pretty good. He's a high-strung guy. He's durable. He can come back night after night. And at the back end of the game, when you want 3 outs and you're wanting to miss bats, which is a premium, he has got that pitch to miss bats. You've seen other guys like Danny Graves that can't miss bats and put the ball in play a lot. You get in trouble. And having a back-end guy that can miss bats with a fastball is pretty premium in Major League Baseball right now.
And my main concern with him the last 2 years under Dusty Baker was he's supposed to be the highest paid and the best reliever, one of the best in the majors.
Right.
But still in the playoffs for 2 straight years, he never got in the game.
Yeah.
What good is he?
Well, you know what? I didn't see every one of those
team.
games, but obviously the game determines a lot, and a lot of times, you've seen Mariano Rivera come in early in games, 8th inning to keep the game tied in a playoff situation. I don't know the circumstances because I'm not going to claim that I've watched every Reds playoff game, but a lot of times that use that guy in those situations, and that situation didn't come up in the playoffs, and you're like, gosh, I didn't get to use my best guy.
Right.
It makes it tough.
Yeah. You played with Barry Bonds, Deion Sanders. How were those guys toward the rookies when you come up?
Oh, gosh. Deion was great. I mean, Deion gets a bad rap. But Deion was great to me, very outgoing. Anything, and this is when he was.
He was an athlete.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is when he was in the contract of going from the 49ers to the Dallas Cowboys, and he was. I mean, Pam Oliver's on the baseball field talking about him, where he's going to go during the middle of the season. So it was a pretty big deal. He was just really down to earth, a really good teammate. Barry, of course, I mean, it's been documented. He's very moody. I would have to say that he treated me very well, and there's a lot of times that he spoke up in a clubhouse for me, which I guess I earned his trust
Respect,
and
yeah.
respect a little bit
Yeah.
somewhere along the line. I was very fortunate of that. But then on the same note, I'd ask him for something, for an autograph or something. He'd look at me like he hadn't known me ever. So I mean, he's very moody that way, and that's just kind of you just kind of approach him, you know, on your toes a little bit whenever you need to ask him or encounter him in any way.
Yeah. You're still a pitching coach. You have a busy career. You're an active pitching coach all during the summer, spring, and the
Right.
summer, fall. You'll be going to spring training here
Right.
shortly. But you're also a co-owner of At the Yard, that Florence facility with Brandon Berger.
Right.
Would you like to tell us about that? Because you do a lot of stuff there that I don't think our viewers are familiar with. Your facility, how it came about, and what you're trying to achieve.
Well, the whole idea initially was when I was coming out of playing the game, I knew here locally there wasn't really, besides Charlie Taylor, doing a wide-scale version of kind of what Charlie was doing. I mean, there's individual instruction, small group instruction, clinics, those types of things. There really wasn't anything in the area, so I thought there was a need. And I'm an entrepreneurial type spirit. I mean, it's something that I enjoyed doing. So that was something that I struck up 13 years ago. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's kind of come around that quick.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's year-round. Brandon's out there year-round. I come back when I get back from the season. But we're doing individual instruction. We're doing classes where you can bring in 9, 10 kids at one time, once a week, come in for an hour, and learn from professional guys. I mean, right now I'm really excited. We've got 10 professional players, ex-players, current players, that are helping us teach young kids in Northern Kentucky. And I think that, you know, you can get some instruction, but to get from guys that have been through it, through Dixie Knothole, through college, through pros, and come back and say, here's how you're supposed to be doing it. And to me, it's really big to help coach as well. So with the parents of trying to explain to them, this is why I think little Johnny's doing this, and show them why he's not doing it. This is what he needs to work on to get better, and kind of have a partnership with the parents, partnership with the coaches to make sure, hey, I'm not doing this for me. I want to make sure that this kid leaves our facility At the Yard a better baseball player, feels good about himself, and can go out on the ball field and excel.
We're down to under a minute, but I got to ask you, whose number did you own? What great hitter in the National League could not get a hit
Not
off
too many.
Chris Huck?
Not too many.
You had 5
I
years.
was only there for a year and a half, but
Yeah.
no, I had some good success, and at the time they were the Blake Street Bombers, the Rockies, Galarraga and Bichette, and those
those guys
guys.
could hit.
But,
Dante Bichette.
I fortunately enough, I was able to throw the ball where they couldn't hit it. I wouldn't say they.
You missed their bat.
Yeah, I missed their bat. There was a few. I remember Dante got me for a good solid double down the line one time, but the slider, fastball. Combination over the hands with those two guys, I had a good feel, and they would put me in and try to face those guys. Now Piazza on the other end, he wore me out a little bit. You know,
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Who had your number?
The guys that the 7-8 hole guys were the ones that killed me. I don't know. I'm not sure if it was a mental thing, but there were some guys that never hit a home run that there's some reason I gave up a home run to. But you know, what a great experience at the big league level, and now to be able to share some of those experiences with some of my guys is really cool.
Yeah. Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure to have you, and I know I echo those thoughts for Joe as well. And to all of you in Northern Kentucky, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.